So welcome to the what is it called? Casual conversations with the Sumner Success Center team,
Woo.
right? Dr. DeBreeze, Miss Ramirez, and yours truly, Mr. Taylor, the success engineer. I'm turning into not Mr. Taylor. I'm turning into MT. So our
MT. Oh, I love it. I'm gonna start calling you that all the time. MT.
yeah, my friend was like, you need to stop being so politically correct and turn into MT. Stop being Michael and turn into MT
MT.
because you know, like I'm professional most of the time, so I need to get out of my little professionalism and talk real. So you're seeing the metamorphosis, and I'm gonna show it on this podcast too. So our topic today is how to intentionally grow as a student. And like I said, let's be honest, not every student is going to have a mentor, or not every student is going to be able to be guided and handheld to success throughout their school days, right? So we have to really be intentional about we can be intentional about what we're doing as students as we're in high school and in college, right? And that's why I brought that up is like we know now how we can be intentional and deliberate about what we do or what we're thinking about and the connections that we make while we're in school, because we don't necessarily get education on life in school, but we need to understand how to apply it to life, apply what we're learning to life. And, I'm always talking about um, multiple disciplines in our everyday life. So, like, what we do in school directly translates into what we do at work, or what we do in the gym translates in what we do at home or at work. Like the little disciplines we can focus on, and that's how we intentionally grow as a person. So in my group fitness class, I tell them we got to connect our uh, the mind and the body, right? We got to work the mind and the body at the same time and make that connection between the mind and the body so that we're growing here and we're practicing for the real world when it gets tough. So I have a thing at the end of my group fitness or my cycle class. It's called like the fourth quarter, and I do it pretty much in every one of my classes that I actually like kind of create, like the playlist or the ride or whatever. I there's a 12-minute, 12 to 15 minute span at the end of class where we have to challenge ourselves a little bit more. So we're training for that tough times and to be able to deal with what happens in the fourth quarter when we're tired, when we're not focused, when we're so that translate the people that come to my class don't understand that, but when they're at home or at work or whatever and they're tired, they can pick it up a notch because we made that mind and body connection. So when we intentionally talk about what a student can do to grow, like we can be intentional about what we do on a daily basis and practicing for the next step. So that's why I brought up that topic. And what do you think, Ms. Ramirez?
Um, I agree. I think you need to start like planning, I guess. Or for example, for me when I was in high school, my freshman year in college, when I applied to K State, um, I didn't put a major in because I wasn't sure of what I wanted to do. But I know for my last semester, I took classes that kind of would guide me in like deciding. So like I was interested in psychology, so I took psychology. I was interested in English, so I took a Latin, I took a Latino literature class, and I also took American corrections because I was interested in like social work and like justice, like the justice system and things like that. And honestly, that helped me narrow it down. Um, and when I got to college, I actually applied for the School of Business because I started to panic because I couldn't decide on the major. So I just picked the School of Business. And then my day of orientation, I switched it to education and psychology. And um, I ended up dropping psychology and adding a double major and a minor. But the thing is that like you want to start like you want to start trying things because it's never too early to try and figure out what you like, what you don't like, and what things you're passionate about, you know. So for me, I think it's everything that I've done, or any organization that I joined, it was with an intention to, improve myself and to gain network, because that's important too. You know, I feel like right now in high school, some of our students have jobs. Like a lot of our students might have jobs and they might not think about it much, but even working like, I don't know, like McDonald's and you're a cashier or things like that, like those are skills that you're building. You might not know it or realize it yet, but you're getting, customer service skills, things like that. And so you have to make sure that you start realizing the skills that you have and building that, like putting that in a resume. I like it's never too early to start like your resume. Um
And the
Sometimes I think
Go ahead.
uh oh,
Go.
I was just gonna say like sometimes when like when I first started like writing a resume, I would forget what I've done. And then it wouldn't be until like I'll talk to my friends and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, weren't you in this or didn't you volunteer here?" And you're like, "Oh yeah." So like it's never too early to start like writing down like all the things that you do. If you have hobbies, like honestly, I always think that sometimes your hobbies or like your passions, they can become way more than what you might even think about, like for example, for me, I love music and I love writing and things like that. And you know, I make time for that. Or like I love soccer and I like want to do something else, a side hustle. Like it's always good to have that, in my opinion.
And the intentionality is in doing the process and respecting the process. So when you said working on customer service, you don't necessarily have to say I am going to work on customer service, or it's doing your job good and doing your job well and showing up every day on time 15 minutes before. That is the practice, that's the intentionality that we can make the connection with. Like, this is going to put me in another place. And I deal with my coaching clients. I'm like, especially in at the college level or students wise, I tell them, like, you don't have to go retrace any steps. If you intentionally do the best you can where you are, you don't ever have to work at Subway again. You don't ever have to work at Sonic again, because you've learned everything that you need to learn from that step. And that's the intentionality that I want students to get to, is that, hey, I'm going to do the best that I can wherever I'm at. So if I'm in school and I'm not learning something that I think is going to apply to um, engineering or something like that, I'm working on the actions that are going to get me the good grade. I'm focusing on the actions. So whether I get a C, B, A, D, I pass, right? But if I've learned how to learn, I may not be really good at that class, then I've passed, survive and advance. That's another way you can apply that. And you mentioned I'll say it in a different way. Explore your interest. That's being intentional. A lot
Mhm.
of times, students don't know. Nobody's been to their been to college or um, have a diploma or education outside of high school in their family. So just exploring interest and trying things, and don't be afraid to fail at something. And failure is not a bad thing. It's just a learning experience. And when we say fail, like you can join a group and not like the group, but the action and the learning comes from, and the learning from the failure comes from you completing the whole what you signed up for. And that's the intentionality that we can get from those areas. Dr. DeVries.
Gosh, you guys have just hit on so many great things this morning, that really just resonate with me. Um, I was thinking about, you know, you mentioned kids working jobs while they're students, and maybe they're not the greatest jobs. I had some pretty crappy jobs when I was a student, and those experiences and the things I learned about dealing with the public and talking to people, and communication, verbal and nonverbal communication skills, all of those skills that you build. um, you may not start out with the intention that I'm going to become a better communicator by working at Taco Bell or Sonic. But the reality is, you end up becoming a better communicator by working at a place like Taco Bell or Sonic or McDonald's or Hy-Vee or Walmart or wherever it is you're working. Um, I, I also want to go back to what you were talking about, Mr. Mears, about developing those interests. And you just never know where a passion could lead you. I mean, we see the big examples. Last night I was watching Jimmy Fallon, and Shaquille O'Neal was on talking about how he was developing as a basketball player, and how he never did a slam dunk until the senior year of high school. Then he just realized, oh yeah, this is my tool. uh, but you just never know uh, what's gonna become your tool. And so just exploring your passions and figuring out what you can do with enthusiasm. And sometimes it's just as important to figure out what you don't want to do. So sometimes those learning experiences, you set out, you do something intentional, you give it a try, and you're, whoa, this isn't for me after all. Those experiences are important as well. So I guess my advice to students is, you know, every opportunity that even remotely interests you, give it a shot. Um, there's 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 something to be learned uh, from almost everything. Unfortunately, I think sometimes we get tied up in the things that really don't have great learning opportunities for us, like scrolling social media. I mean, you might be tempted to buy something, or you might learn some trivial fact, but you're probably not going to advance yourself very much watching cat videos, which is my favorite time waster on social media. So I just, I think it's so important to be active. And sometimes that action looks like, sometimes you do that action sitting, but a lot of times you're doing that action by getting up off your chair, out into the world, or at least into another space in your socially distanced world, and doing some stuff. So I would encourage students to always take those opportunities.
Yeah, I think a lot of us get in when we don't know and we come from disadvantaged backgrounds. A lot of us get into the specialization trap. I don't know. I'm just making that up, but like to be an engineer, I need to do all the things that are going to make me an engineer, and I'm just going to stick with that on that track because we don't know any better, right? because we never been there before and we don't know anybody that's been there before. So this is what they say I need to do, and we don't veer from any of that, right? And my uh, greatest enhancement to my education was doing the things that were outside of the realm of what I was actually focused on. And that's what makes you unique and able to bring more to the table. So people and I mentioned earlier about being having a mentor and things like that. Nobody could have mentored me on what I did in school, especially college, right? Because I was a student athlete involved in an organization, a resident assistant. I don't know anybody that I've come across that have done those four things, like being an athlete. Usually people quit being an athlete and just do school and do student government or residence life, things like that. But nobody could have guided me, and a lot of people have, especially now, they like go real focused on this one thing and go in that direction. But and then I'm looking at my career and how many years that I have in multiple areas. So I have 10 years in multiple areas. And if you understand the 10,000 hour rule, like you're really good at something based off of 10 years of doing that every single day. And nobody can teach that but me now. I mean, I'm not gonna like you say, but it's those things that when I focus on something, and they have a good documentary on this on Netflix called Creative Minds. So all these creative, innovative things that people have done, they talk to these creators, and you can see where they took examples or things in their lives that they were doing outside of their profession and used it in their profession. And that's one of the things about trying new things that will help you out. Even if you can understand it a little bit and you can apply it to what you actually want to do. So being a basketball player can help with being an engineer because of the strictness of practice. And what do engineers do? They think of plays or think of ideas. They try them out. They see if they work. They correct them. What does basketball players do? The coach thinks of plays. They try them out, and then they see if it's effective or efficient. So there, those different types of things. Just being involved in that, my work in my organization, like that was a part of the program that I was in, but um, I got to see how a nonprofit works and the different elements to working in a nonprofit, and how you can be a part of a committee, and that committee does a part to help the whole. And that translates right there into life. Like if I our what we do on a daily basis in the success center, the things that we do, it directly helps the students of the whole school, right?
I hope so.
Right, right, it does. And that's, and we have to be intentional with what we do, and we have to be deliberate in what we do so that we can cause our, or not cause, but create the outcomes that we want. So I mean, it being intentional as and growing as a student is something that we don't really understand, because if I thought about it back in when I was in high school, like I'm not really thinking about it. I was aware of it, and I made it when I talk to students now. I'm like, I don't think they're aware of the what value they're getting out of the experiences that they're going through, and what they're so working at Claire's, or and the manager wanting you to be a manager, and how that affects you, and what confidence that brings, different things like that. And if you can manage that with going to school, that's extremely valuable. I wasn't able to work during school, during high school, and during college, so I had to gain those skills just without being paid.
Volunteer.
Yeah, I've been volunteering all my life, I tell people. So it's time for me to get paid. And I won't go into that today. But don't be afraid to fail. If anybody's out there, don't be afraid to fail. Um, Failure is not final. That is not final. It's just a learning experience. And if you know who Elon Musk is, the richest man on the planet now, um, in his company SpaceX, when they were trying to shoot off a rocket into the atmosphere and land it on the same rocket platform, something where we try to do on with little remote control rockets. They trying to do it at a big scale. They millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars spent to build these rockets to go out into space. They blew up one of them. They blew up the first one, the second one, the third one, and then when they didn't have any money left, they they landed on the fourth time. So you have to be persistent about what you want, and failure is not an option. It's especially if you understand what the ultimate goal is. The ultimate goal, if you do this and you complete this and you actually go forward with it, it can bring a whole new element to the game and uniqueness and innovation that nobody can do but you. And I always talk to the students when I get a chance to say, like, I need you to be 100% you all the way through this process, because the 18-year-old you is the person that is going to remember. The 38-year-old you is the person that's going to remember when you were 18 years old, that the things that you can do, the options that you can have to help change the situation you came from. And that's more unique than anything, because the people at the top they don't know what is actually going on at the bottom. So those people that are going to really change the world are going to be the people that come from the bottom and work their way up through adversity, through all the losses and the failures.
I think you're absolutely right. There's no better lesson learned than a lesson that you tried, had to stumble, fall, fail, whatever word you want to use, and
I
then
don't, I don't think we go through
get
the
up, try.
process. Do you think we go through the whole process? Like, I think we quit too quickly on ourselves and different things. Like, if it doesn't work out the way that we're planning for the short time that we're doing it, like, if I would have quit teaching Zumba when I had the three people in class for a couple of years, I would have never been able to command or draw a class full of 30 people or more. You know, I would have never got to that point if I would have listened to the guy that trained me, the first Zumba, one of the first Zumba instructors ever. Like, he pulled me out to the side and was talking to me and was like, "Oh, you got to practice. You got to do this." And I'm like, I know, dude. Like, I play basketball a lot. Like, I'm not gonna get out I don't want to play the game until I'm ready to play the game, right? And even with like motorcycle riding, like, the dude was like, "Oh, you gotta practice before you get out there." And I was riding my two wheel class, and I'm like, "Dude, I'm not going out there and endangering my life and other people's lives without knowing what I'm doing." Why? Who would do that? And like, I'm one of the best drivers out there. It's but they didn't pull nobody else aside. They pulled me aside. I didn't see that with nobody else, and I'm very observant. So those type of things like that kind of bothers me, but it also is like a like it clarifies like what the process is, and I understand the process of mastery because that's what I do. I master things, and like I said, I practice and practice and practice until I get really good at it. And once you get really good at it, and you just playing in games, and it's like it's second nature.
Yep. Yeah.
What was you gonna say, Mr. Ramirez?
I was just gonna say, like, you know, I just feel I just feel like it it's like later on when you just start, or when you see opportunities and then you remember things that you've done, and you're just like, oh yeah, like, or like, for example, anyone who's like bilingual, like that is such a big like tool. And just being aware of like how powerful it is to speak another language. I think sometimes we forget, but there's a not you don't have to necessarily major in your second language like Spanish or anything like that, but it's definitely a great tool, or a great way to get opportunities. So I always think that there's little skills that maybe we overlook sometimes because we're so used to doing it naturally, that we just have to be more aware. And just how you said, not to be afraid to fail. Like failing is a step closer to success, because you're going to take that experience. It's all about experience and how you learn from it. When people sit and complain about, or when they're sad about failing, um I always think it's good to feel every single emotion, but don't let yourself drown in those emotions, because when you fail a test or things like that, of course you're going to feel upset, or you're going to be like, wow, I think I studied, my butt off, and I still ended up getting this grade. Like this is so hard. It's just like, okay, like let's take a look at how you studied for that exam. Maybe that method of studying was not working, or is not the best fit for you. Sometimes it really is that you have all the pieces of the puzzle, but you're not really putting them where they belong. And so, or so I think it's really important to be able to kind of look at all your experiences, good or bad, and see what can come out from them, and try to grow. You always want to be able to grow and evolve into a better version of yourself.
I was just looking at one of the things that I woke up early this morning, and was and it came to my mind. I was like, I need to write this down. So the what we're talking about is growth, right? And life is about growth. Success is what you become from the growth that you might as well that you become from the growth. And you might as well get what you want out of life if you put in the work. So the simplest form is that we have to put in the work every single day. And we don't have to necessarily be focused on it as to get us out of our like the work process. Does that make sense? um like we can be we can be um so tied up into like, what am I doing on it? Am I doing it right, or am I? No, just once you get it in your head, this is what I have to do. These are the elements that are available for me to work and grow. Then you just go to the job and you just go do it. And that's why I call it arenas. When we step in these different arenas, we should know our goal and what we're going to get from this arena, because it's going to apply to our growth in our lives. So when we go to school, we need to understand that sitting in the front of the class, being attentive, doing our assignments, you know, studying for tests and making a plan for all of these different things is going to help us move forward and to complete that stage of life. And then whatever job we're doing, like you don't have to, like, I'm not saying you have to be the best worker out there. You have to hold your own though. So I call it the Jordan mentality. Everybody's gonna have their shot to be Kobe Bryant or LeBron James. Everybody's going to get that shot. But if you're not going to get that shot, that last second shot, because they have to pass it sometimes. They get double teamed. So you're going to be the one to step up and make that shot. So you're going to get that moment, that time in the light. And are you going to be ready? And that's and that growth is what we need, because when you're my age, when you're 18, and then when you're my age, I want you to be able to be ready for that shot, because you're gonna get it. Trust me, the tides are changing in the United States, that in the next 20 years you guys are going to be able to be forces to be reckoned with, because you have those multiple languages that you know, because you came from a disadvantaged background and you worked your way out. You have that adversity behind you. You took the steps necessary to be in position to take that last second shot. And it ain't even the last second shot. It's just you're gonna have 40 to 50 more years of leadership. We just want you to be leaders. And we want to get you there a little bit quicker than how we got there. Because, like I said at the beginning, we don't have, we have almost 1,200 students in our school. There's not 1,200 people that are going to be mentors to every one of those students. So we got to understand that each one of us has an obligation to be intentional about our growth in school and to take it to the next level. Final words.
Final words from me. I don't know that I can say it any better than you said it, MT. But every day you've got to show up, and every day you've got to put in the work that's necessary to get to where you want to be. It doesn't matter where you want to be. You aren't just going to wake up one day and be there unless you've done the work. And sometimes that work is monotonous and boring, and you don't want to do it. Like I get it. Why do I want to? For me, when I was a student, I hated math. I wasn't bad at it. I just hated it. And it wasn't something that I wanted to do, but boy, am I glad I did it, because turns out now I work with a lot of data, and like the fact that I know how to figure a percentage. I mean, I get it that I use a calculator to do it, but I have to know which numbers to put in the calculator in order to figure out the percentage. So, sometimes the stuff you're doing, you might think, I'm never going to use this. I want to work with people. I don't want to work with numbers. All right. Well, when you're working with people, sometimes you have to work with numbers. So, I mean, just putting in the effort every day, even if it's hard to see how this is actually going to apply to you, that gets you ready, so that when you do get the ball, you can make that shot with confidence and not airball it. That's my advice.
Hoodie gang.
Hoodie gang. I guess my advice would be know who you were, know who you are, and know who you want to be.
That's good.
So, you always want to be aware of who you were, see the how far you've come, know where you're at, what you can do at the moment, and plan for that future you, so you can later on look back and keep growing.
I'm going to steal that. Like, I'm going to put that on a poster or a t-shirt. That's going to be my new mantra. Know who you were, who you are, and who you're going to be. I love that.
I just came up with that, bro.
I mean, that can be applied at many different stages of your life.
Absolutely.
If I was a student, and well, if I was mentoring a student, I would tell them to look more at what they want to be at that time, because that's going to give you the the simple skills. Um, and I tell students all the time, you got to live in what you want to be right now. What you want to be is how you need to live right now. So if you want to be a surgeon, you need to live as a surgeon. I guarantee you surgeons ain't missing appointments or they're not late to class. You know, those are those little skills that you can do right now because you're practicing for that time. And the greats, they practice the mundane activities over and over and over again, that it's boring, but they do it every single day. And if you skip over those mundane things that you should practice up until you become a surgeon, you're not going to be ready to be a surgeon. It's not going to just click like that. So, you know, I mean, that is, I might have to steal that too. Because it applies so much, and I think you can focus on it in many different ways and apply it to many different situations and use it to your advantage. So, man, any other last words? I think we probably cut you off,
I'm writing it down.
Miss Ramirez.
No, that's all I had.
Miss Ramirez is about to be a head coach or assistant coach.
We hoping. We hoping.
All right. Thank you all for joining us here on Casual Conversations, the podcast here at the Sumner Success Center. Dr. DeVries, for Dr. DeVries, Miss Ramirez, and the Success Engineer. Have a good day.